So after a little false start here, we are pleased to welcome Courtney Worrell to our meeting. And going to read a little bit from the press release that was put out when she was hired. Courtney is a seasoned nonprofit leader with robust experience in conservation, development, fundraising, and organizational operations. Throughout her career, she has held various leadership roles in organizations, including the National Parks Conservancy Association, and most recently as president and CEO of the Waterfront Alliance, promoting thriving and resilient waterfronts, shorelines, and coastlines in New York City. She brings a deep connection to public lands and is committed to ADK's mission. Her educational background includes a master's degree in public administration from Columbia and a bachelor's degree in environmental policy from Mount Holyoke. So we are very pleased to welcome Courtney to our meeting and look forward to hearing her thoughts about the future of ADK.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Henry and Roy, for having me, for the nice introduction. As you all know, the advisory council's meeting at 7 o'clock, so I'll be jumping off then. I'm sorry to cut it short, but I do want to just give you an overview of some of the things that I've been working on and I think are the future direction for ADK generally, as we're also moving forward with many changes. We'll be thinking through it with a new strategic plan, which we have not started, and that process will be started in probably mid next year. So in terms of the process of creating a new strategic plan for the next 5 years. So this is my 7th month on the job, and what I have found is similar to what I expected, a wonderful organization with a deep and rich history, incredible amount of support from all over New York State, New Jersey, as well as other parts of the country. I'm also finding just the deep talent that there is on the staff and among the many volunteers and people who spend tremendous amount of time at the ADK Heart Lake facility, as well as all over the state with the chapters. And so it's rich, it's complex, and it's very exciting in so many ways. So one thing, as you all probably know as well, is that the governance model for ADK has changed over the last several years, or last 5 years at least. So ADK is now governed with a professional or a board that is more in line with what is a modern nonprofit, where it is not large. We have 10 people right now. It's moved from the larger model of about 65, 67, I think, at the peak, board members who were mostly chapter representatives. And so I think the organization is still finding its way in terms of understanding how to make sure the chapter voices play a role, that the chapters are not only paid attention to, but also very much a part of the future of ADK moving forward. So it's been, if I understand correctly, not the smoothest process in the world. And so I think I've recognized that, and I think the goal is to move more towards their partnership and even more just collaboration and that connection between the parent organization of ADK and the chapters, while at the same time making sure that the chapters have plenty of independence and ability to work autonomously and to do the work you want to do and you need to do outside of what ADK is doing in the Adirondacks itself. So I also want to introduce Ray Fusco. He's our Director of Special Projects, and Ray has been working very, very closely on insurance. So insurance has been a driver of good things and also very confusing things over the last few years. And I recognized that right away when I came on board. Ray has a background in outdoor recreation and outfitting and events management, as well as consulting. Formerly was on staff at the New York City Economic Development Corporation, as well as chief of staff at one of the leading engineering firms in New York City. So plenty of experience, and Ray has been able to work with us in terms of finding a new insurance broker who specializes in nonprofit insurance. And this broker has been able to also not only improve ADK's overall insurance and our general liability insurance, but what I'll be telling the advisory council about today is that we're hopeful that we're going to have better policies for each chapter, actually. So individual chapter policies that will allow for a bit more, in fact, to be covered under ADK, under this these policies that ADK will also purchase. So Ray will be the person who, I think a few of you have already worked with Ray. We're still in the process of getting that figured out. So thank you for bearing with us and for your patience in that. But we hope that with just the insurance as kind of the baseline of what needs to be improved in terms of chapters and ADK, that can be the launching point for more smooth and I think more clear opportunities for the chapters, as well as for all the coordination that's required with the ADK, and especially for the outdoor leadership guide trainings, which also have gotten an earful about how complex they are and how they have unnecessarily, in some ways, eliminated the opportunity for some people to continue as outdoor leaders. So all I want to say is work in progress. Thanks for your patience. Every intention of ours is to improve all of this and to continue to work on that path. So I'll also just say a little bit about the internal workings of ADK. There's been a lot of, again, in the theme of modernization, a lot of work to modernize and streamline things on the internal side with our own insurance. We now have signed up with a PEO, which is great. So getting more expertise as much as we can on the internal side of things. We have close to 80 or 90 employees at the peak of the summer. So it's a pretty big operation, and all those things have to work right. But the other big part of that is a new database. ADK has absolutely suffered with the IMIS system, and that is going by the wayside. We hope that we'll have a new website by March or April, and with that comes a new database. It's no longer going to be that we have an expectation of a off-the-shelf database website solution, which is what the previous one was. These are two separate systems now that do integrate and talk to each other. We've hired nonprofit specialists, so consulting firms that specialize in nonprofits, which I really think is the secret to success for most organizations about the size of ADK. And so we've been working with those consultants, and we hope to have the new database and website up to speed and ready to go in the early or late spring of next year. So those are some of the things internally. Also, I think we're still in the process of determining how many more courses that we can offer in terms of wilderness first aid, level three leave no trace training, and all the different trainings that I know that there's a lot of demand for, that also a lot of the chapters don't want to travel all the way up to Heart Lake for. So we're looking at all those options. We're hoping to have some online options as well, some pre-recorded courses that anybody can take that will fulfill some of the leadership requirements and training. So though I don't have any specifics to tell you other than that we know that these are things that are needed, and the pieces are getting put into place right now to make that happen. In terms of the staffing changes that you may see, so Luke Whitlow is no longer with ADK. He's moved on to greener pastures, and the woman who assists me and the board, and who also is an IT and tech whiz on the back end, is Alexi Bhattacharjai, and you will have received her email. If you haven't already, by tomorrow morning, there'll be an email from me, or I'm not sure actually it's coming from me or from Sarah Cook, our Director of Communications. Forgot to check on that. Either way, you'll get the same information, and you will hear and see Alexi's contact information. So if you have any questions on the tech side, you can always get in touch with her. She's also going to be, and is a very strong part of the database, the new database and website team. And Ray, of course, is there as well. So I think last but not least, fundraising is an important part of ADK's work. We're looking to make sure we're reaching out to our donor base, especially to the people who have been giving regularly and consistently. And for those of you who are on the call right now who have been donors to ADK, I just cannot thank you enough. It really makes a difference, a huge difference. It allows us to offer our programs, which if we're offered across the board, everything ADK does, if it were a for-profit organization, for-profit entity, we would be only able to do what we do at double the cost to the public or to individuals. So that's a really important part as we're nearing the end of the year. So Anyway, I think we only have a little bit of time left. So, Henry, I saw you went off mute. I don't know if you want to say something before we run out of time, or if you wanted to ask me some questions.
Well, I guess that there were one or two developments that I think were in a recent email from headquarters that you might want to elaborate on a little, which is the I guess deaccessioning of the Cascade Welcome Center, and then also your
Yes.
plans for the newsletter.
Yes, yes. So, one of the tasks that I had when I started from the board of directors was to look at the different costs and revenue centers for ADK. And the analysis of what the Cascade Welcome Center was costing ADK and the amount of revenue that it was bringing in really did not justify the future of Cascade being a part of what ADK does. As sad as that is for so many people, it's a community resource, a cross country ski resource as well. I think that the expectation was that ADK was going to be able to work year after year to raise the government funds that it would need to run the center and also to help it become profitable over time. We know with the change of administration in Washington, D.C., that all types of public funding are being reduced to some degree. It's not clear exactly, but the ripple effect of those types of cuts from experience and history always affect the environmental and parks organizations of any state entity. And so it's a combination of things, including just knowing what this is going to look like for New York State in particular, in terms of its ability to fund visitor centers like this. And also the last part of it is that we did find that in the analysis that so many of the staff that were necessary to run the operations, where we receive the vast majority of our 100,000 plus visitors every year at our Heart Lake facility, those staff were being pulled from Heart Lake to meet the demands at Cascade. And it just wasn't working in terms of our staff costs as well. So I have with every chapter that I've met with since this decision was made, I just want to acknowledge what a hard pill this is to swallow, how tough it was, and I think the board's sincere apologies that this is even an event or a development for right now that we have to deal with. Sorry, Henry, I don't remember the second part of your question now.
The Adirondack Magazine.
That right, the magazine. So the magazine is going to be coming out one time a year. You should be receiving the next issue in the next 2 weeks or so. It is being cut to one time a year, also for cost concerns. But in addition, that we want to make sure that we're still relevant to people who, frankly, are a lot younger than me, who are going to be the future members and the future supporters of ADK. They don't read magazines. It's kind of that simple. So what the cost saving is allowing us to do is to invest more in social media, invest more in smaller pieces that are a lot less expensive to print essentially, and to ship. And for postage, etc., so that we can contact all of our audiences more frequently with less expensive materials and less expensive pieces. And I really hope that the ADK will get to a point in the next 2 years or so where we'll be at least able to increase the magazine back to two times a year. That's in line, I understand, with the Appalachian Mountain Club, which eliminated their magazine, went back to two. I think it's a great idea. I just don't think we're there financially yet to do that.
Yeah, I will particularly miss the accident reports that I always found very interesting in
Oh,
the magazine, and lessons to be learned about operating in the backcountry.
oh.
It looks like we've just got a minute or two left. Is there any? I mean, maybe we'll take one question from the group if there is one question from the group.
Yeah.
Frank?
Courtney, just a question, because can you talk a little bit about the demographics of ADK and how that's changing today and what you expect in the future, as well as how is the financial status of the organization?
Yeah. The vast majority of our membership, so over 60%, is over 60. And unfortunately, the numbers at the bottom of our demographics are not increasing as rapidly as we would expect or hope. The challenge for the organization, as it is for every membership organization, is to meet people where they are, the people who are under 30. They don't join organizations. They don't want to be a part of clubs necessarily. Country clubs, museums, you name it. They're all facing the same challenge. So hopefully we'll be able to provide new programming. One thing in particular is offering trips that are for 30 and the 30 and under age group. We don't want to see, for example, a chapter say we're going to be hosting something for younger people from the ages of 12 to 25. That means you're kind of missing the idea that 25-year-olds don't consider themselves to be in the age group of 12-year-olds. So, there's also just this rethinking we have to do in terms of how we also, because we're all of an older generation, how younger folks are seeing each other and seeing themselves and how we can better connect that. And Frank, I'm sorry, I forgot your second question also. I'm so sorry.
The finances of the organization.
Oh, the finances. Yeah, it's incredibly tight this year. I think that we need all the support we can get. The goal is to be able to increase revenue and streamline and cut costs where we can in order to be as strong and resilient as we can be through the end of 26 and 27. But we've got a ways to go. And you can tell by the decision with Cascade that was, that we're not saying it too forcefully, but finances were a part of that decision for sure. So yeah, that's I think all I'll say about that for right now.
Okay, fair enough. I think we have to let you go on to your advisory committee meeting. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for
Yes.
joining us tonight. Sorry for the technical snafus at the beginning,
No
and
problem. I'm happy
best
to
of
come
luck.
back. So Henry, I
Okay.
know this was very short. I'm happy to come. So in person to anything, please just reach out. Best that you just reach out to me directly and ask me to be somewhere. That's the easiest way for me to respond and to know you want me in particular time and place. So,
Well,
okay.
and we understand that you are actually living part of your life in suffering, and so we would invite you to join one of our hikes in Harriman some Saturday or Sunday when you're back down there.
I would love that. I probably can see you from my porch, so that means I have to go. All right, great. All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Okay. Well, that worked out okay after all. So, Bob, back to you. And you're on mute.
Okay, let me unmute.
There you go.
There's step one. Now, step two is to try to share and restart. Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Okay, let's just okay. Here we go. Okay. Apologies, I'll go over this quick, but I know we're recording. I'm cognizant of that, so I want to make sure I catch everything in the presentation. So I'll talk about in terms of how to become an ADK hike leader, the rationale for it, the certification standards themselves, which are that meeting that Courtney just jumped to. They're discussing those, and then be briefly talking about leading a hike. So as I mentioned earlier, and as Courtney just alluded to, right, the mission of the ADK is protecting the wildlands in New York, promoting responsible outdoor recreation, and becoming or creating a constituency of land stewardship advocates. And so the hiking chapter is a great vehicle into that mission. ADK itself, as we just heard, it's a nonprofit. It's got $8 million in assets. As Courtney just talked a little bit about the insurance requirements, and hopefully some new things are coming with that will be good for our chapter. But it also leads to consistency across all the ADK programming, improved safety for both leaders and participants, and more welcoming and inclusive experiences, all of which are good things for hiking. So the way ADK breaks down the certifications, they have 3 levels of leader, 1, 2, and 3. 1 being kind of the easiest hikes, and 3 being the hardest hikes. There's a little confusion because we call in our chapter our hikes, we have a B hike, meaning a certain pace of 2 miles an hour, and a B elevation, which may or may not be consistent with ADK headquarters. So I'll just go to the 1, 2, and 3. And it seems to focus really on the difficulty of the hike. So as a level leader 1, the easiest hikes are under 1,000 feet of elevation gain in less than 5 miles. But even there, they're saying a C+ hike is $1,000 or less of elevation and 5 to 8 miles, which is a little more than what we think of as our typical C hike, right? And then leader level 2 is the typical, I'll call it the typical Tuesday, Thursday hikes. Moderately strenuous. Many of our hikes are 2,000 feet or less of elevation, and some stretch, a little more, and up to 10 miles, which again fits probably 90% of our hikes. And then level 3 is the real strenuous hikes, such as you find in the Catskills or the Adirondacks. We do have some of those around here, and certainly we have leaders that lead in the Catskills and elsewhere. But it's not, percentage-wise, a lot of our hikes. And in fact, I kind of took a look at our hikes, and almost 25% are actually fall into that level leader 1 category. And then the vast majority are in the level 2. So again, the easier certification, you can actually lead quite a lot of hikes in our area. So here's the snapshot of the certification levels. You have to be an ADK member. You have to join ADK and be 18 or older. Co-lead at least 1 outing with a certified outings leader. And then there's just 2, quote, training courses you have to take. There's a leave no trace awareness and a sexual harassment training. And then you need, knowledge of the outing and trip leaders guide, which is on the ADK website. Level 2, you have to be, all of level 1, and then co-lead at least 1 outing at the level 2 leader above that. Do a course called Outdoor Leadership 101, and complete basic first aid, which a lot of us who are, past teachers or nurses or whatever, you had to do this all along throughout your careers. And there's a pending change, which is when I became certified in level 2, I had to do a course called Map and Compass Fundamentals. But what they're talking about tonight is recommending to drop that requirement as long as you're not doing an overnight backpacking trip or bushwhacking as you might do on some of the Catskills high peaks or in the Adirondacks. And then level 3, similar pending changes are coming, which is all good, relaxing a lot of the certification requirements. So a pending change is that you should co-lead at least one hike at that level. That's an additional requirement, but they're taking away the wilderness first aid and the leave no trace as long as you're not backpacking or bushwhacking, which again, so you know that 10-mile limit on a hike, right? We do have some hikes, you know, in our area that are more than 10 miles. But you know, you can do a 10-mile hike in Harriman and never be, you know, more than 2 miles away from a road, frankly. So wilderness first aid is a little bit of overkill, and the good news is they're planning on relaxing that requirement. So let me just talk a little bit about the time investment you would have to make to become a hike leader. So to do the level 1, well, you have to co-lead one outing, and that's usually a few hours, but that's something we all enjoy doing. But then the 2 courses, the Leave No Trace Awareness Workshop, and I have the URL there, is less than 30 minutes. And the sexual harassment training, if you still work and have a, you know, corporate certification, because most corporations have that requirement, you can use that. If you don't, there's a new course that they've allowed as a certification offered by Cornell Cooperative, and it's a sexual harassment training towards volunteers. You know, not necessarily towards hiking, but towards volunteers in general. I took it. It was the video was less than 10 minutes, and if you're good at YouTube and play it back at, you know, twice the speed, you can still understand what's being said, and you could probably do it in less than that. And then I say 20 minutes because then you just have to upload these certifications to the ADK website. So that's going to take you another 5 minutes to do. So if with less than an hour, my point is with less than an hour investment, you can become a hike leader and lead up, you know, hikes of up to 8 miles, as long as there's not a whole lot of elevation gain. And here's some of the C+ hikes, you know, run by our chapter in the past. You know, as I said, almost 25% of our hikes. And if you're looking to lead a hike, thinking about doing this and want to just do a C hike, you know, go back and look at some of these, and in our past newsletters, we'll have lists of them. So they're pretty easy to do. Similarly, for for level 2 training courses, there is an Outdoor Leadership 101. That is a half-day investment, 4 to 6 hours. I did it virtually. You just heard Courtney mention, sort of in passing, that they're looking at how to simplify this rather than going up to Lake Placid to do this course for a half day, maybe recording it. I did it, as I said, online. I don't see an online course being offered, but that's in development. And then a basic first aid course, which I've done the Red Cross certifications. I did it when I first became a hike leader, and I just renewed it. And they offer they offer a couple of options. The online course is actually required. For my personal benefit, I wanted to do both the online and also go and you know, practice CPR on a dummy. And so they offered a hybrid option where you do the basic first aid, then I drive to, I forget, Mawa or wherever, and took a course that was less than an hour to do the in-person practice. That I also had to pay for, but then got reimbursed by our treasurer. And so it cost me nothing other than the time, and now I'm certified in basic first aid. And once you do those, plus co-lead an outing, now you can lead, you know, 95% of our hikes. So 10 miles up to 2,000 feet cumulative elevation. And again, level 3, a similar thing. You need to co-lead an outing at this level, you know, on top of the level 1 and level 2 outings you co-led. And then a wilderness first aid is not required for day hikes. So if you're leading Stonetown Circular, say, which would be probably a level 3 if you did the whole thing, it's still a day hike and you wouldn't need the wilderness first aid. If you do want to do wilderness first aid, and I know Jeff and Anastasia and some others in our chapter have done this, and they have found it worthwhile. But that does typically you need to go up to Lake Placid. I think there's a few third parties near us that offer similar things that you can do as well. And again, any cost would be reimbursed. And then you can lead any hike you please. The ADK website, it is changing, but even in its current form, you basically log in, upload your certification approvals. So I just renewed the sexual harassment prevention, as you may be able to see here, and basically I got a document or I got an email with a certification attached from the Cornell Cooperative. I saved it. I went to the ADK website. I uploaded it, and over time it'll become reviewed and approved by ADK. So it was really pretty simple. And then, after you're certified co-lead and start leading a hike, this is just a short checklist, and there's many checklists out on the internet. We always encourage our hike leaders to have a good description of the hike. That way, if people get separated on it, people can look at that description and figure out, how you were planning to get out, basically. Scout out a trip before leaving it if you're not familiar with the planned route. People on the Tuesday hike know I'm pretty good, but not 100% on that. Before the hike, we have that registration system to sign up for a hike. It's managed and I volunteer is the system name. So for a hike leader, you basically just need to know who's coming on your hike. There's a release of liability form that you probably have all signed. I volunteer will do all the reminder emails and all that sort of stuff for you. If you do see a new name on it, it's a good idea to send them an email. I always just say, hey, welcome, I usually go 2 miles an hour and we do this, just tell me you've done hikes like that in the past. And it's a kind of a non-confrontational way of doing it. And then obviously check the weather forecast and cancel if conditions would make the trip unsafe. And then on the hike, just make sure you get there before the others. I'm also maybe a laggard in that department. These are best practices, not what I do. Obviously bring a map, bring your phone. In the past, paper maps were emphasized. The hikes I lead, I'm pretty familiar with the trails and that. I just bring my phone most of the time with a trail conference map on it, and in the Avenza app, if you're familiar with that, it'll give you a little blue dot of where you are, and that's, frankly, way better than a paper map. And if I drop my phone or lose it, typically there's 3 others on the hike, with a phone. And I also have a mental image of the route anyway. Have the participants sign the ADK waiver. Obviously we stop at trail crossings, we keep track, to make sure everyone's there. We often have sweeps if there's a longer hike, stop for rest breaks. If there's someone new that you're not, familiar with, just make sure they're doing good. I mean, even if it's someone you're familiar with, sometimes people have bad days. I've had bad days. Anastasia's had bad days. Everyone's had bad days on the trail. We know Henry had a very bad day one time where he broke his wrist. Be friendly, have fun, and then just check that everyone arrived at the end point. And then after the hike, there is a little extra work for the hike leader. We sign in who showed up, and then I volunteer will send those thank you emails. And then that signed liability form goes to Bob Morrison, and you just email him. Anyone interested, I can give you his email address. And really, there's a lot more information on the ADK website. Hopefully it will, they're talking about some of the changes tonight, and it will be updated shortly to reflect all the new information. Anastasia seems to think some of the new information is out there already. And then ADK, first of all, our site has a website that has additional information for hike leaders and everything you should do. I kind of hit the highlights. And then ADK does have an outing and trip leaders guide that covers best practices. And it's a good thing to be familiar with, but frankly speaking, I don't follow it to the letter. And but I think, do everything that's essential and important on leading a hike. And that's it. Stop my chair.
Let's open things up for questions from the group. Anybody want to raise their hand?
Did I energize everyone to get them to become hike leaders?
Anybody want to volunteer? Yeah.
Or did they all leave after Courtney left?
No, we still have a lot of people on the call.
We will send the presentation to everyone. And we could update it when we get the final words on the certification.
Now, Bob, this is Jim Murtha. I've got a question for you. With the hikes, how are they picked? Does the leader pick the hike, or are there like a group to select from that are preferred?
I'm actually glad you asked that question, because I did leave that out, maybe with the interruption. So yeah, the best part about being a hike leader, Jim, is you get to hike wherever you want.
Around my block.
I will say, if you go somewhere and no one shows up or two people show up, you may want to, take that as a lesson learned. But yeah, no, like I did, I did the mapped out the Appalachian Trail in New Jersey this past year, and a lot of people just love those. But to my knowledge, no one's done that, certainly since the pandemic, right? And possibly for some time before that. So yeah, it's great. I get to, I live in Warwick, New York. I've started a few hikes out of Warwick where, no one else would ever do it. So I am a bit selfish as a hike leader, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. And, if you're looking for ideas, all the old hike schedules are on the website. And you can kind of look at what everybody else has done in the past, maybe what ones that you remember you've been on led by somebody else, and adapt that, and so that you don't have to start from scratch. Other questions?
Henry, the one thing I'd like to say to everybody here is we had a presentation from a woman who explained how to use All Trails. And with All Trails, you can plan a hike, and you can see the elevation gains. You can, it'll give you the distance. It'll give you a lot of information. And that presentation is available. Anastasia's shaking her head. I don't know where it's available, but it's available.
I'll send the link. I'll send the link with an email.
And it's a really useful tool. It is a super useful tool.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Yeah, I'll add to that too, that there's a number of apps that do it. All Trails is a good one. I used to use something called Gayer, although they just changed their pricing structure. So, and most recently I used Caltopo to plan a hike. But they're great because you can lay out a hike. They seem to know the trails and where they go. So, you can just say, I'm starting at the parking lot, I'm going on the orange trail here, click a couple of spots along the trail and it will record the hike. And that way you can plan it and it'll tell you the expected elevation and the expected length. Yeah. So I would encourage the use of a tool like any of those to
work. Yes, we will send this presentation to everyone. They're asking for it, Bob.
Right.
Okay, great.
I've got a
Hey,
question.
Bob, this is Jeff. If I can ask a question. Really your presentation, you presented nicely, clearly, effectively, in a simple and informative way. Do you know whether the outing and trip leaders guide, which includes a certification equivalent section, has been revised? I think the last one we have up on our website, as well as on the ADKs, is March 2024, which is about a year and a half ago. So maybe you could just follow up with ADK if they haven't updated the outing and trip leaders guide, and maybe with the new certification process and the recent changes that they can be included.
Yeah, that's exactly right. My understanding, Jeff, is they should be adopting those tonight at that advisory council meeting, and then my presumption is they will, update the outing guide to reflect those. But yeah, we have to keep an eye on that as well. Otherwise, I'm just, this is a giant asterisk on my presentation.
Right. David, did you have a question?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name's Dave DePod. When I recently moved to central Pennsylvania, I was in the Ramapo chapter, and although not really active in the chapter, a regular hiker in Catskills and more recently Winter Mountaineering School. So I was now referred to Lenny Steinmetz in the PA chapter, Delaware Valley chapter, rather. I'll get a hold of him and say hi and introduce myself. I don't know if he's on the call tonight, but my question relates to, I think it was Jeff's question. So there are a couple of recent changes. They're coming through with the meeting that's taking place now with the board and some of these hike leader requirements, softening in some areas and maybe not in others, but will they, can they also be communicated in a multiple series of ways, whether it's through the emails from the people on this call, as well as updated the trip leaders guide, just so we're all on the same page and we don't waste time getting something that might be currently required, but has changed. So I just being very keen on volunteering as a leader. It would be important to all of us to know exactly what those requirements are as they're rolling out, and so we all stay current. So I just want to reiterate what Jeff said, maybe with a little different perspective, being a new kid on the block and very interested to be involved.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, no, I think we all share the fact that we hope that all of these changes are approved in this meeting tonight, and then that they are rapidly communicated to the membership and updated the website and updating the Troop Leaders Guide. Other questions, comments?
We can always update our presentation and send it to you, David, and everybody else. We can do that.
Thanks so much.
Mhm.
Okay, so seeing no further questions or comments, thank you very much, Bob, for an excellent presentation. I urge all of you to consider whether you might become a hike leader for us, because we're always in need of that, and hopefully these new relaxed requirements will encourage people to take on that role. So before we leave, I just want to mention our next chapter meeting will be Wednesday, February 11th. And the topic of that conversation will be international hiking trips with a speaker who is an experienced leader of trips, I guess largely in Europe, Anastasia, right?
Yeah.
But,
Phil Rose.
right. Anastasia has been on a number of them and wants to encourage us to think more broadly, which would be great times. And I'm sure a lot of you people have been to the Dolomites or to other excellent hiking areas in Europe. And with that, I think we will call it a night. Thank you very much for everybody for participating. We hope you learned something, and we will see you again in February, if not before, on the trails. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you.